The knife came fast, too fast. Tyler Brooks didn't think. The scream in that rain-soaked alley ripped through the night, and his body moved before his mind could stop it. One man, one blade, one choice. He chose wrong, or maybe he chose right. The steel punched through his ribs like a promise of consequences, and as he hit the wet pavement bleeding and breathless, the woman he'd never met whispered two words that would unravel everything. "I'm Evelyn." Evelyn Langford. The billionaire. The one person in this city who could destroy him or save him. He just didn't know which yet. If you're watching from Tokyo, Lagos, Sao Paulo, or your hometown, drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Tyler Brooks was invisible. Not in the way ghosts are invisible, haunting the edges of perception. No, Tyler was invisible in the way that janitors are invisible. The way night shift workers become furniture in the eyes of the people who move through lit hallways and glass towers during daylight hours. At 35, he'd learned to accept it. Hell, he'd learned to use it. Invisibility meant no questions, no scrutiny. No one asking why a man who used to manage construction crews now pushed a mop cart through the marble lobbies of downtown high-rises. The rain that October night came down in sheets, the kind of cold, punishing rain that turned the city into a watercolor blur of neon and shadows. Tyler's shift had ended 20 minutes ago, but he'd stayed late to finish the executive floor at the Garrison building. Some hedge fund bro had spilled an entire carafe of coffee, and Tyler wasn't about to leave that stain to set overnight. It was 11:47 p.m. when he finally pushed through the service exit into the alley, his work jacket soaked through before he'd taken 3 steps. The alley was a narrow canyon between skyscrapers, lit only by a single stuttering street lamp and the ambient glow of the city above. Dumpsters lined one side like metal sentinels. Tyler had walked this route 1,000 times, 2 blocks to the bus stop, 40-minute ride to the apartment in Riverside, where his son Milo would be asleep, watched over by Mrs. Chen from 4B, who charged $20 a night and always left origami cranes on the kitchen counter. He was thinking about those cranes, about whether Milo had finished his math homework, about whether the radiator would hold out another week when he heard it. The scream. Not the kind of scream you hear in movies, full-throated and cinematic. This was different, sharp, desperate, cut short. The sound of someone who knew screaming wouldn't help but couldn't stop themselves. Tyler's body moved before his brain caught up. He rounded the corner where the alley forked, boots splashing through puddles, and the scene materialized like something out of a nightmare. A woman backed against a brick wall, elegant even in terror, her designer coat torn at the shoulder. 2 men closing in. No 3. The third one hung back watching the street. The one closest to her had a knife. "Phone, jewelry, now." The voice was flat professional. This wasn't some desperate addict looking for a fix. This was business. The woman's hands were up, shaking. "Please." Tyler didn't announce himself, didn't shout a warning. 7 years in the army had taught him that surprise was worth more than size, and he'd lost the element of surprise the moment his boots hit the wet pavement. But he had momentum, and momentum was something. He crashed into the knife man from the side, a full-body check that sent both of them sprawling across the slick concrete. Tyler heard the woman gasp, heard the lookout shout something, but his world had narrowed to the man beneath him and the knife that was no longer in the man's hand, but skittering across the ground toward a storm drain. "Run!" Tyler shouted at the woman, not looking at her, every ounce of focus on the man who was already twisting faster and stronger than Tyler had anticipated. They grappled in the rain. Tyler got an elbow up, blocked a punch, felt his knuckles connect with something soft, a gut, maybe a kidney. The man grunted but didn't slow down. Professional. Trained. Tyler's heart hammered against his ribs as he realized this wasn't going to be quick. The second attacker materialized from Tyler's blind spot. Tyler saw the flash of metal too late. Not the first knife, but a second one pulled from a boot or a pocket, and there wasn't time to block or dodge or do anything but feel the blade punch through the side of his jacket, through the thin fabric of his work shirt, through skin and muscle, and into the space between his ribs. It didn't hurt at first. That would come later. What Tyler felt was pressure, and the hot-cold sensation of something fundamentally wrong happening inside his body. Shit! The knife man scrambled back, eyes wide. Marcus said no blood. Too late for that. The second attacker yanked the blade free, and that's when the pain arrived, white-hot and all-consuming. Tyler collapsed to his knees, one hand pressed against his side, feeling the warm pulse of blood between his fingers. The world tilted. Rain hammered his face. Through the gray haze of shock, he heard sirens, distant, but getting closer. Go! Go! The lookout was already running. The three men vanished into the maze of alleys like smoke. Tyler tried to stand, failed, tried again. His vision swam. The woman, where was the woman? She should have run. Why hadn't she run? Oh God, oh God! She was kneeling beside him, hands fluttering uselessly, her face pale in the streetlight. Stay with me. The police are coming. Stay with me. You're okay, Tyler managed. His voice sounded wrong, distant. You're bleeding. Jesus, you're bleeding everywhere. Been worse. It was a lie, but it felt like the right thing to say. Her hands pressed against his side, trying to staunch the flow. Her fingers were cold, or maybe Tyler was just losing heat. What's your name? Tyler. Tyler Brooks. I'm Evelyn. She said it like he should know who she was, like it mattered. Evelyn Langford. You saved my life, Tyler Brooks. The sirens were close now, maybe a block away. Tyler's head felt full of cotton. Didn't really think about it. That's what makes it matter, her voice cracked. That's exactly what makes it matter. The last thing Tyler remembered before the world faded to black was the look on her face, not gratitude, not pity, but something fiercer, something like guilt. Boig. When Tyler woke, the world was white and beeping. Hospital. The antiseptic smell hit him before his eyes fully focused. Fluorescent lights. Industrial ceiling tiles. The steady rhythm of machines monitoring vitals he couldn't feel. His side was a dull, throbbing ache that suggested serious painkillers were doing heavy lifting. Dad. Milo's voice cracked through the fog. Tyler turned his head. God, even that hurt, and saw his son pressed against the side of the bed. Eyes red-rimmed. Mrs. Chen standing behind him with a hand on his shoulder. Hey, kiddo. Tyler's voice was gravel. I'm okay. You got stabbed. Milo's lower lip trembled. Mrs. Chen said you got stabbed and almost died and... Hey. Tyler reached out with his good arm, pulled Milo close enough to feel the boy's heartbeat against his chest. 7 years old, and already too familiar with loss. Tyler's wife, Sarah, had been gone 3 years. Cancer, fast and merciless, and Milo had learned too young that people you love can disappear. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Mrs. Chen cleared her throat. The doctor said you were very lucky. Another inch, and... She didn't finish. Didn't need to. A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand, expression professionally neutral. Mr. Brooks, when you're feeling up to it, we need to discuss some paperwork. Financial. Later. Tyler said more sharply than he intended. Give me a minute with my son. The nurse nodded, retreated. Milo pulled back, wiping his eyes with the heel of his hand. What happened? The police came to the apartment, and Mrs. Chen wouldn't tell me anything except you were hurt. I helped someone who needed help. Tyler kept it simple. That's all. But you got hurt. Sometimes helping people costs something. Tyler smoothed Milo's hair, the same stubborn cowlick Sarah used to fight with every morning before school. Doesn't mean it wasn't worth doing. Mrs. Chen gave Tyler a look that said they'd be talking about this later, about being more careful about thinking of his son before playing hero. Tyler gave her a look back, that said he knew he understood and he'd do it again anyway. The billing representative found Tyler 2 hours later after Mrs. Chen had taken Milo home with promises to keep him fed and occupied until Tyler could figure out what came next. The rep was young, tired-looking, carrying a tablet like a shield. "Mr. Brooks." She sat in the visitor's chair, tapping through screens. "Your insurance covered the initial trauma care, but you're looking at significant out-of-pocket for the follow-up. Surgery went well, but there's post-op observation medications, physical therapy recommendations." Tyler's stomach clenched, and it had nothing to do with the knife wound. "How much?" $2,800. "We can set up a payment plan." $2,800. Tyler stared at the ceiling. He had maybe $400 in checking. Another $200 in the account he'd labeled Milo's college that hadn't seen a deposit in 6 months. "Yeah, payment plan." The rep's expression softened microscopically. "There's also a note here that the woman you helped, Ms. Langford, has requested to cover your medical expenses. She's already provided her billing information and authorization for no." "Mr. Brooks, no." Tyler sat up despite the protest from his ribs, despite the machines beeping their concern. "I don't need anyone paying my bills." "Sir, it's $2,800. "I heard you the first time." Tyler's jaw was set. "Tell Ms. Langford thanks, but no thanks. I'll handle it." The rep looked at him like he'd grown a second head. In her world, people didn't turn down $2,800. In her world, pride wasn't more expensive than medical debt. She didn't understand that Tyler's world was different, that accepting charity from a billionaire would make him even more invisible than he already was, that he'd spent 3 years rebuilding something like dignity from the wreckage of grief and layoffs, and he wasn't about to trade it for convenience. "I'll make a note," the rep said, finally standing. "The payment plan paperwork will be ready by discharge." After she left, Tyler found his work jacket hanging in the small closet, dried blood stiff on the fabric. In the inside pocket, wrinkled but intact, was a business card. Evelyn Langford, CEO, Langford Enterprises. Personal line, 555-0147. Someone had tucked it there, the EMTs maybe, or a cop processing the scene. Tyler stared at it for a long moment, then shoved it back in the pocket. He didn't need her money. He didn't need her anything. The detective came the next morning. Tyler was working through a hospital breakfast that tasted like cardboard, and regret when a knock sounded on the doorframe. The man who entered didn't look like the cops Tyler remembered from the crime scene the night before, young uniforms who'd taken his statement between radio calls. This guy was older, maybe 50, with the kind of weathered face that came from seeing too much and sleeping too little. "Mr. Brooks, Detective Martinez." He flashed a badge, slid it back into his jacket. "Mind if I sit? Do I have a choice?" "Everyone's got choices." Martinez settled into the visitor chair like he planned to stay a while. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got stabbed." Tyler set down his fork. "Look, I already gave my statement. 3 guys, 2 white, 1 Latino, all wearing dark clothes. They ran when the sirens got close. I didn't get a good look at faces." "Right." Martinez pulled out a small notebook, flipped it open. "About that. You worked until what, 11:30? Then walked through an alley you walk every night, heard a scream, decided to play hero. That's what happened." "Uh-huh." Martinez's pen tapped against the notebook. "And you just happened to tackle an armed assailant like you've done it before. EMTs said your form was good, said you moved like someone with training." Tyler's expression didn't change. "Army, 7 years, honorable discharge. Infantry, Special Forces. But that was a long time ago." Martinez studied him. "Special Forces operator ends up pushing a mop. That's a hell of a fall." "Life happens." Tyler's voice was flat. "Wife got sick. Medical bills. Company I worked for went under. I needed steady income and flexible hours. Janitorial work provides both." "No judgment." Martinez raised a hand. Just trying to understand the full picture. Because here's the thing, Mr. Brooks' Ms. Langford is a very high-profile individual. Billionaire CEO. Her company's involved in biotech defense contracts, real estate. Woman like that walks through an alley in the rain without security, gets attacked by men who seem to know exactly where she'd be. Tyler felt something cold settle in his chest. You think it was targeted? I think it's interesting. Martinez closed the notebook. I think it's interesting that she was alone. I think it's interesting that you happened to be there. I think it's interesting that they ran instead of finishing what they started. You're investigating me. It wasn't a question. I'm investigating everyone. Martinez stood. Ms. Langford included. Woman her size makes a lot of enemies. Maybe she set something up. Maybe you did. Maybe it's exactly what it looks like. But 20 years on the job taught me nothing's ever exactly what it looks like. He moved toward the door, paused. You know what's really interesting though, the attackers. One of them said something before they stabbed you. Marcus said no blood. You remember that? Tyler did remember. The name had stuck even through the shock and pain. Marcus Langford, Martinez said. Evelyn's younger brother. Hasn't been seen in 3 days. His credit cards are maxed, his phone's off, and his apartment looks like he left in a hurry. The detective left Tyler sitting in that hospital bed, breakfast forgotten mind, racing through implications he didn't want to face. If Evelyn's own brother was involved. Tyler looked at the business card again, still crumpled in his jacket pocket. This wasn't over. Whatever he'd stepped into that rainy night, it was bigger and darker than a random mugging. And Tyler Brooks' invisible janitor was right in the center of it. They released him that afternoon with a bottle of painkillers, a sheaf of discharge instructions, and a follow-up appointment he probably couldn't afford. Mrs. Chen met him in the lobby with Milo, who'd made a Welcome Home Dad banner that was mostly glitter and determination. The bus ride to Riverside was torture. Every bump sent fire through Tyler's side. Milo sat pressed against him, quiet and worried, while Mrs. Chen narrated neighborhood gossip to fill the silence. Mr. Pack's restaurant got a health inspection. The Johnsons' dog had puppies. Life continuing in its small, ordinary way. Their apartment was on the 4th floor of a building that had been scheduled for renovation since before Sarah died. The elevator worked 3 days out of 7. Today was not one of those days. Tyler climbed the stairs slowly, one hand on the railing, Milo hovering like a worried shadow. By the time they reached 4B, he was sweating through his shirt and seriously reconsidering the whole refusing help thing. The envelope was taped to their door. Tyler knew what it was before he touched it. The manila paper, the official seal, the weight of bureaucratic inevitability. Notice to vacate. What's that? Milo asked. Nothing. Tyler peeled it off, shoved it in his pocket with the business card. Go inside. Start your homework. Milo hesitated, then obeyed. Mrs. Chen gave Tyler a look. How long? She asked quietly. 72 hours. Tyler's voice was hollow. I'm 3 weeks late. Had to choose between rent and Milo's school supplies. Made the wrong choice, apparently. There are programs. I know. Tyler rubbed his face. I'll figure it out. But as Mrs. Chen left and Tyler eased himself onto their second-hand couch watching Milo spread homework across the coffee table, he wasn't sure how he'd figure anything out. Medical bills, eviction notice, a detective who thought he might be part of some conspiracy, and somewhere in the city, a billionaire whose life he'd saved and whose brother might have tried to kill her. Tyler pulled out the business card again, turned it over in his fingers. Personal line 555-0147. His phone rang before he could decide whether to use it. Unknown number. Tyler almost didn't answer, but something instinct, curiosity, desperation made him hit accept. Mr. Brooks. A woman's voice, professional and warm. This is Amanda Chen, executive assistant to Evelyn Langford. Ms. Langford would like to meet with you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Are you available? Tyler looked at Milo, bent over a math worksheet, tongue poking out in concentration. Looked at the eviction notice on the coffee table. Looked at the bottle of painkillers that wouldn't last a week. Where? He asked. Langford Enterprises, 42nd floor. I'll have a car sent. No car. I'll take the bus. A pause. Of course. Security will expect you. Is there anything you need? Anything we can... Just the meeting, Tyler said, and hung up before she could offer anything else. Because Tyler Brooks might be desperate, might be broke, might be staring at homelessness and medical debt, and a mystery that could get him killed. But he wasn't taking charity. Not yet. Not unless he had absolutely no other choice. The knife wound throbbed in agreement, a steady reminder that choices, even good ones, always cost something. He just had to hope the price wouldn't be more than he could pay. The pizza night becomes a pivotal scene. A moment of unexpected connection where Milo and James bond, potentially shifting the emotional landscape of the story. Their shared laughter upstairs suggests a breakthrough, hinting at deeper relationships forming beyond initial expectations. Tyler didn't sleep that night. The painkillers kept the physical agony at bay, but his mind ran circles around the eviction notice. The medical bills, the detective's implications, and the meeting tomorrow with a woman who lived in a world so different from his, it might as well be Mars. At dawn, he found Milo already awake building something with Legos at the kitchen table, a robot, all angles and determination. Couldn't sleep? Tyler asked, pouring water for instant coffee, because the real stuff was too expensive this month. Milo didn't look up. Are we going to be homeless? The question hit Tyler harder than the knife had. 7 years old and already carrying weight no child should carry. No, I promise. You promised Mom wouldn't die. Silence filled the kitchen like smoke. Tyler set down his mug, moved to the table, knelt beside his son despite the screaming protest from his side. That's not fair, and you know it. Milo's hands stilled on the Legos. His eyes were wet when he finally looked at Tyler. I heard you on the phone. I heard the lady say something about a meeting. Are you going to beg her for money? I'm going to listen to what she has to say. Tyler kept his voice steady. There's a difference between begging and considering options. What's the option? I don't know yet. Tyler touched the robot, the careful construction. But whatever it is, we face it together. You and me. Deal? Milo nodded, but the worry didn't leave his face. At 7, he'd already learned that promises were fragile things, easily broken by forces beyond anyone's control. Tyler made him breakfast, the last of the cereal, watered-down orange juice, and walked him to the bus stop, even though every step felt like someone was twisting a blade between his ribs. Other parents clustered in their usual groups, glancing at Tyler with a mixture of curiosity and pity. Word traveled fast in neighborhoods like this. Janitor gets stabbed playing hero. Janitor can't pay rent. Janitor might not make it another month. The looks made him want to disappear even more than usual. After Milo's bus pulled away, Tyler returned to the apartment and did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He pulled out his dress shirt, the one he'd worn to Sarah's funeral. It still fit barely, and the knife wound made buttoning it an exercise in controlled agony. But when he looked in the mirror, he saw something other than invisible. He saw a man preparing for battle, even if the battlefield was a glass tower and the weapons were words. The bus ride downtown took 45 minutes. Tyler watched the city transform through the window as they moved from Riverside's crumbling facades to the gleaming steel and glass of the financial district. Different worlds, different rules. He touched the business card in his pocket like a talisman. Langford Enterprises occupied floors 38 through 45 of the Meridian Tower, a building so new it still smelled like money and ambition. The lobby was all marble and modern art, the kind of space designed to make visitors feel small. Tyler approached the security desk, every instinct screaming that he didn't belong here. Tyler Brooks, I have a 2 o'clock with Ms. Langford. The guard, young professional too well dressed to be just security, checked his tablet. 42nd floor. Ms. Chen will meet you at the elevator. The elevator was glass on 3 sides, offering a view of the city falling away, as Tyler rose toward the kind of altitude where normal problems couldn't follow. His reflection stared back at him in the polished steel, and he saw what they'd see: a working man in a second-hand shirt, holding himself too carefully, trying not to show how much pain he was in. The doors opened on 42, and Amanda Chen was waiting, petite, immaculate, with the kind of efficiency that suggested she ran the world before lunch every day. "Mr. Brooks?" Her handshake was firm. "Ms. Langford is expecting you. How are you feeling?" "Alive." It was the truth, if not the whole truth. She led him through an open office space that looked like something from a magazine: standing desks, glass walls, people moving with purpose, and expensive coffee. Everyone glanced at Tyler, then away, cataloging and dismissing him in the same breath. Just another visitor. Just another nobody. But Amanda didn't take him to a conference room or a formal office. She led him to a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view that made Tyler's stomach lurch. The city spread below like a circuit board, all lights and geometry. Evelyn Langford stood at the window, back to the door. She'd changed since the alley cashmere instead of torn designer, her dark hair pulled back every inch the CEO. But when she turned, Tyler saw the bruise on her cheek she'd tried to cover with makeup, and the haunted look in her eyes that no amount of money could hide. "Tyler." She crossed the space in 3 strides, stopped just short of touching him. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." Here was the first test. She had chairs arranged in front of her desk, the traditional power dynamic. But she gestured instead to a small seating area by the window, 2 armchairs facing each other over a coffee table. Equal ground. Tyler sat, and so did she, close enough that he could see the fine lines around her eyes, the exhaustion she wore like a second skin. "How's the wound?" she asked. "Healing. I tried to pay your medical bills. They told me you refused." "I did." "Why?" No judgment in the question, just genuine confusion. Tyler met her gaze. "Because I didn't save your life for money. I saved it because someone needed help. The moment you pay my bills, it becomes a transaction, and I'm not for sale." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe respect. "You're a rare man, Tyler Brooks." "I'm a broke man with a kid to feed, and 72 hours to find a new apartment." The words came out harder than he'd intended. "So if you brought me here to thank me again, we can skip that part. If you brought me here for something else, I'm listening." Evelyn leaned back, studying him with the kind of intensity that probably made boardrooms uncomfortable. "I have a son, James. He's 8. Smart as hell, scared of everything, and increasingly angry at the world because his father left us 2 years ago and I'm always working." Tyler waited. "I need someone to drive him to school, pick him up, be there when I can't be, which is most of the time. Someone who understands that protection isn't just about physical safety, it's about being present, being consistent, being real. You have a security team. I have men in black suits who make my son feel like a prisoner." Evelyn's voice was tight. "I need someone he can talk to. Someone who gets what it's like to be a parent first and an employee second." "So you did a background check?" It wasn't a question. "Extensive." She didn't apologize. "Former Special Forces. Honorable discharge. Wife died of cancer. 1 son, Milo, age 7. Currently employed as a janitor at Garrison Holdings, working nights to be available for your son during the day. 3 weeks behind on rent. Medical debt from your wife's treatment that you're still paying off. No criminal record, no red flags, just a good man dealt a bad hand." Tyler's jaw tightened. Must be nice being able to buy people's lives on a screen. "It's necessary." Evelyn's tone didn't change. "My brother tried to have me killed 3 nights ago. Or someone did, using my brother as a pawn. Either way, everyone in my life is now a potential threat. Everyone except you, because you had no reason to help me and every reason to walk away. You chose to bleed instead." The words hung between them like a confession. The police think I might be involved, Tyler said. Detective Martinez is thorough. He'll clear you. Evelyn pulled a folder from the side table, set it between them. I'm offering you $80,000 a year. Full health coverage for you and Milo. Housing allowance. Retirement contribution. Your job is to drive James to school and back 5 days a week. Be present at after-school activities. Fill the gaps when I can't. Tyler opened the folder. The numbers blurred. 80,000. More than double what he made pushing a mop. More than he'd seen in his checking account in 5 years combined. It's business, not charity, Evelyn said, reading his hesitation. I'm not buying your gratitude. I'm hiring someone uniquely qualified who needs the work. The salary is competitive for executive protection and childcare combined. I'm not a babysitter. No. You're a father who understands what my son needs, and you're a special forces operator who can keep him safe if the people who came after me decide to expand their target list. Tyler looked up from the folder, and something in Evelyn's expression made his blood cold. Fear. Real bone-deep terror that money couldn't shield her from. You think they'll come after James? I think they'll use any leverage they can find. Her hands were steady, but her voice wasn't. My company handles defense contracts, biotech research, real estate development worth billions. My board is full of sharks who'd love to see me fail. My brother is drowning in debt to people who don't forgive. And 3 nights ago, someone decided violence was a viable strategy. So yes, I think my son is a target. Tyler closed the folder. I need to meet him first. Of course. And if he doesn't like me, or I don't think this works, the answer is no. Evelyn nodded. James is at Whitmore Academy. School ends at 3:30. We can pick him up together. Tyler checked his watch. 2:15. One more thing. My son comes with me on school runs. I don't leave Milo with sitters unless I have to. I'd expect nothing less. Evelyn stood, offered her hand. So we have a deal. Probationary period 2 weeks starting tomorrow. Tyler took her hand. Her grip was firm, the handshake of someone who'd fought for every inch of power she held. 2 weeks. As Amanda appeared to escort him out, Tyler felt the weight of the choice settling over him. He was walking into something deeper and more dangerous than a simple job. Evelyn Langford wasn't just hiring help. She was building a wall around her son with whatever materials she could find, and Tyler was about to become a brick in that wall. The question was whether the wall would hold, or whether they'd all come crashing down together. Whitmore Academy was the kind of school that didn't advertise prices because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Brick and ivy wrought iron gates, parents in luxury cars, doing pickup like a choreographed dance. Evelyn's SUV black armored driver included felt both out of place and perfectly at home. Tyler sat in the back with her watching the parent parade through tinted windows. That's him? Evelyn pointed to a small figure emerging from the main entrance. Dark hair like his mother's thin shoulders, hunched under a backpack that looked too heavy. James? The boy walked alone while other kids clustered in groups laughing, shoving, existing in that easy way children do when the world hasn't yet taught them to be afraid. James moved through them like a ghost seen, but not acknowledged. He doesn't have friends, Evelyn said quietly. The other kids know who I am. What I am makes him untouchable. Tyler recognized the isolation, had lived it himself in a different context. Being the boss's kid is hard. Being my kid is impossible. The driver pulled up, and James climbed in, barely glancing at his mother before his eyes landed on Tyler. Suspicion. Wariness. The look of a child who'd learned that new people in his mother's life rarely stuck around. James, this is Tyler Brooks. Evelyn's voice gentled in a way it hadn't in the office. He's going to be driving you to school for a while. Why? James's voice was quiet, cautious. Because I trust him, Evelyn said, and because he has a son your age who needs a friend. That caught James's attention. You have a kid. Tyler nodded. Milo, 7. Builds robots out of Legos and asks too many questions. I like robots. The first crack in the armor. Then you two should get along fine. The drive to Evelyn's place was quiet, but Tyler caught James watching him in the rearview mirror, calculating. Smart kid, scared kid. Tyler knew that combination too well. Evelyn lived in a penthouse that made the office look modest glass walls, minimalist furniture, the kind of space that cost more per month than Tyler made in a year. But it felt empty in the way museums feel empty, beautiful and untouched and lonely. I need to take a call, Evelyn said, glancing at her phone where messages were stacking up. Tyler, can you stay with James for a bit? Before Tyler could answer, she was moving toward a home office door closing, leaving Tyler alone with a boy who looked like he'd been left alone too many times. Want to see my Lego collection? James asked the question somewhere between challenge and hope. Show me. But James's room was the first space in the penthouse that felt lived and messy, in the way kids' rooms should be full of half-finished projects and books stacked in precarious towers. The Lego collection was impressive, spread across 2 tables, elaborate builds that showed serious skill. You made all these? Tyler picked up a detailed spaceship. Yeah, Mom buys me sets, but I don't really follow the instructions. I like making my own stuff better. That's engineering. Tyler examined the ship. Real engineers don't just follow instructions, they solve problems. James looked at him differently then, like Tyler had passed some test. Most grown-ups just say they're nice and move on. I'm not most grown-ups. Are you really going to drive me to school? If you'll let me. James considered this. Will your son come? Every day. And you're not going to leave like everyone else. The question hit Tyler in the chest. This kid had learned the same lesson Milo had people leave, even when they promised to stay. I'm going to be honest with you, James. I can't promise forever. But I can promise that if I leave, it won't be because of you. It'll be because the job ends, or circumstances change. And I'll tell you before it happens. James studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, that's fair. They spent 20 minutes talking about robots and engineering and what made a good design versus a great one. Tyler forgot about the knife wound, forgot about the medical bills, forgot about everything except the kid in front of him who was hungry for someone to just pay attention. When Evelyn returned, she found them debating the structural integrity of a Lego bridge, both of them animated in a way that made her stop in the doorway and just watch. He likes you, she said after James had gone to wash up for dinner. He's a good kid. He's a lonely kid. Evelyn moved to the window, looked out at the city. I'm failing him. I know I'm failing him. But I don't know how to be both the mother he needs and the CEO the company needs. Every time I try to balance, something breaks. Tyler joined her at the window. You're doing what you have to do to survive. He knows that even if he can't articulate it. Does Milo know that about you? Some days. Tyler's voice was raw. Other days, he asks me why I can't be the dad I used to be before his mom died. And I don't have a good answer, except that grief changes you, and poverty changes you faster. They stood in silence, 2 people from different worlds connected by the same impossible weight of single parenthood. Start tomorrow, Evelyn asked. Start tomorrow. That night, Tyler brought Milo to their apartment and told him about the job. Milo's eyes went wide at the number 80,000, and even wider at the mention of health insurance that would actually cover his asthma medication. We can stay in the apartment, Milo asked. We can stay. Tyler pulled out the eviction notice, crumpled it, tossed it in the trash. I'll call the landlord tomorrow, pay what we owe, plus late fees. Milo threw his arms around Tyler's neck, and Tyler held him tight, breathing in the smell of his son's shampoo, and feeling something in his chest unclench for the first time in weeks. There's one more thing, Tyler said. The woman I helped her son goes to a different school than you. But he's going to ride with us every morning and afternoon. His name's James, and he's really into robots. Cool. Milo pulled back. Can he help with my Lego city? I think he'd like that. The first school run happened at 7 a.m. Tyler arrived at Evelyn's building in his 15-year-old Honda, and the doorman looked at it like it might explode. James emerged with his mother, both of them dressed for their respective days, James in his Whitmore uniform, Evelyn in another power suit. The partition stays down, Evelyn told her driver, who'd been about to raise the privacy screen out of habit. I want James to have conversations, not isolation. She kissed her son's forehead, squeezed Tyler's shoulder, a gesture that felt both professional and desperate, and watched them drive away. In the back seat, James and Milo sized each other up like prize fighters. I'm Milo. James? You like robots? Yeah. Cool. I'm building a Lego city. You can help if you want. Just like that, the ice broke. By the time they dropped James at Whitmore, the boys were deep in debate about whether robots should have wheels or legs, and Tyler had to separate them with promises of continued discussion later. Your son is cool, James said as he climbed out. So are you, Tyler replied. The second day, James asked if Milo could come to his place after school. The third day, they built a robot together, while Tyler and Evelyn worked in adjacent spaces, him reviewing security protocols she'd had compiled, her taking calls and managing crises. By the end of the first week, it felt less like a job and more like something Tyler couldn't quite name. On Friday, Evelyn ordered pizza for everyone. Not catered fancy pizza, just regular pizza from a place down the street. They ate in the kitchen while the boys argued about movie selections, and for a moment it felt normal. Like they were a family instead of an employer, an employee, and two kids caught in the middle. Mom's lonely, James said later when Tyler was tucking him in. Evelyn had insisted Tyler handle it since she had an emergency board call. She doesn't say it, but I can tell. Tyler smoothed the blanket. Being a grown-up is complicated. Do you get lonely? Sometimes. Honesty felt important. But I have Milo and that helps. And now I have this job, which means I get to hang out with you. That helps too. James smiled a real smile, the first Tyler had seen. I'm glad you got stabbed. That's a weird thing to be glad about. You know what I mean. Tyler did. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best connections. Sometimes pain was the price of finding something worth keeping. Upstairs, he could hear Milo and James laughing over whatever video they'd convinced Evelyn to let them watch. The sound was pure and uncomplicated, the sound of childhood asserting itself against the weight of their circumstances. Tyler's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Heavy breathing. Then a voice distorted and mechanical. Tell Evelyn we're patient, but not forever. She knows what we want. The line went dead. Tyler stood frozen in James's doorway, the laughter from upstairs suddenly sounding fragile as glass. He looked at the boy already half asleep, trusting and vulnerable, and felt the weight of his new role settle over him like armor. This wasn't just about driving kids to school. This was about standing between children and monsters, and Tyler Brooks had already proven he was willing to bleed for that. The question was, how much more blood would be required before this was over? Let me structure this to have maximum drama and tension while maintaining the emotional core of the story. Tyler didn't move from James's doorway for a full minute after the call ended, his hand gripping the phone so hard his knuckles went white. Upstairs, the boys' laughter had given way to the sound of an action movie explosions and orchestral music filtering down through the expensive floors. Everything normal. Everything fine. Everything a lie. He found Evelyn in her home office, still on her board. Call her face illuminated by 3 monitors showing spreadsheets and video feeds of men in expensive suits arguing about quarterly projections. She saw Tyler's expression through the glass and held up one finger. Wait. But Tyler shook his head, pointed to his phone, and mouthed one word, emergency. Evelyn's face went pale. She muted her microphone. Gentlemen, I need to call you back. 10 minutes. She didn't wait for protests, just killed the feed and turned to Tyler. "What happened?" "They called me." Tyler played back the voicemail the threat had left. The mechanical voice filled the office like poison. "Tell Evelyn we're patient, but not forever. She knows what we want." Evelyn's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against her desk to hide it. "They have your number. Jesus Christ, they have your personal number." "I'm listed. Public record. Anyone could find it." Tyler's mind was already 3 steps ahead, cataloging vulnerabilities, assessing threats. 7 years in Special Forces had trained him to move from shock to action in seconds. "But they called tonight. First Friday you've been home for dinner in weeks, according to James. They're watching the house." Evelyn stood abruptly, moved to the window, then yanked the blinds closed. "What do they want money?" "The company, I don't understand what they—" "Your brother." Tyler's voice was flat. "Detective Martinez said Marcus disappeared. Said his name came up during the attack. This isn't random, Evelyn. They're using him as leverage and they're escalating." "Marcus wouldn't—" She stopped herself. "I don't know what Marcus would or wouldn't do anymore. He's been gambling, borrowing from the wrong people. I tried to help, tried to get him into treatment, but he pushed me away. Said I was controlling his life like I control everything else." Tyler heard the guilt in her voice, the self-blame. He'd heard it in his own voice after Sarah died, asking himself if he'd missed signs, if he could have done something different. "This isn't your fault." "Then why does it feel like it is?" Before Tyler could answer, his phone buzzed again. Not a call this time. A text from an unknown number. Just a photo. Tyler's blood turned to ice. It was Milo and James frozen in grainy surveillance footage from earlier today, outside Whitmore Academy. The timestamp read 3:47 p.m., 20 minutes after pickup. Someone had followed them. Someone had been close enough to photograph the boys while Tyler was standing right there, and he hadn't noticed. "Show me," Evelyn demanded. Tyler turned the phone, watched her face crumble. "We need to call Martinez," she said, voice breaking. "We need police protection. We need to move the kids, now." Tyler was already heading for the stairs. "Pack bags for James, essentials only. We have maybe 20 minutes before." The lights went out. Not just the room, the entire penthouse, the building, the street outside. Total darkness, the kind that only happens when someone cuts power deliberately. Through the window, Tyler could see neighboring buildings still lit, glowing against the night sky. Just this building. Just them. "Stay behind me." Tyler's voice dropped to the command tone he hadn't used in years, the one that brooked no argument. He pulled Evelyn close, one hand on her arm, guiding her through the darkness toward the stairs. His eyes were already adjusting, picking out shapes and shadows. "Where's your panic room?" "3rd floor, behind the master closet. Biometric lock." "That's where we're going." They reached the stairs. Tyler could hear the boys above their voices rising in confusion and fear. "When we get there, you lock that door, and you don't open it for anyone but me. Understand?" "What about you?" "I'm going to make sure we're actually under threat and not just experiencing a power outage." The lie tasted bitter, but panic would help no one. They found Milo and James huddled together on the couch, Milo's inhaler clutched in one hand. James's face ghostly in the reflected city light from the windows. "Dad," Milo's voice was small. "It's okay, kiddo. Just a power thing. But we're going to play a game." "Okay, we're going to see how fast we can get to Ms. Evelyn's special room upstairs." "Like hide and seek?" James asked, trying to be brave. "Exactly like that." Tyler kept his voice light, casual, even as his hand instinctively reached for a weapon that wasn't there. He'd left that life behind, but the training never really left. "Race, you guys." They were halfway up the stairs when Tyler heard the distinctive sound of the emergency stairwell door being forced open. Not the elevator, which would be dead without power. The stairs. Someone who knew the building who'd planned this. Tyler stopped, turned to Evelyn. Go. Now. Don't stop, don't look back. I'll be right behind you. Tyler. Go. Evelyn grabbed both boys' hands and ran. Tyler heard their footsteps receding, heard the distant sound of a door opening and closing. Good. They were safe for now. He moved back down the stairs in the darkness, every sense heightened body. Remembering movements he'd practiced 1,000 times in places far more dangerous than a luxury penthouse. The emergency door was 2 floors below, and footsteps were coming up. Multiple people, at least 3, maybe 4. Not rushing, not panicking. Professional. Tyler's mind raced through options. He had no weapons, no backup, no way to call for help with the building's cell signal had to be jammed because Evelyn's emergency protocols would have kicked in by now otherwise. He had his training, his body, and the element of surprise. And he had rage. Ice-cold, controlled rage at people who would threaten children. The first figure emerged from the stairwell onto Evelyn's floor. Tyler let him pass, let him take 3 steps into the hallway before attacking from behind. One arm around the throat, the other hand reaching for the weapon he knew would be there. Found the gun, twisted it free, brought the butt down on the man's temple. The figure dropped without a sound. Contact! Someone shouted from the stairwell. He's engaged. 2 more came through the door, but Tyler was already moving using the darkness and his knowledge of the space. The penthouse he'd walked through every day for 2 weeks, memorizing exits and choke points without consciously meaning to. Old habits. He fired twice, not to kill, but to suppress. The muzzle flash lit up the stairwell in brief, violent snapshots. 2 men, body armor, professional gear. Not thugs, not amateurs. Military or ex-military just like him. This was so much worse than a mugging gone wrong. Tyler retreated toward the 3rd floor, firing twice more to keep them cautious. He could hear radio chatter, coordinated movements. They weren't here to scare. They were here to take. He reached the master bedroom. Found the closet, found the hidden panel Evelyn had shown him during the security briefing he'd thought was overkill at the time. Pressed his hand against the scanner. The door clicked open just as footsteps pounded down the hallway behind him. Tyler slipped through, slammed the reinforced door shut. Heard bullets impact the other side, felt the vibration through the metal. But the door held. Designed to hold. Inside the safe room was lit by emergency lighting, about 12 by 12, with monitors showing security feeds and a reinforced phone line. Evelyn sat with both boys pressed against her, their faces tear-streaked but alive. Milo saw Tyler and broke free, crashed into him hard enough to hurt the half-healed knife wound. I thought... Milo couldn't finish. I'm here. I've got you. Tyler held his son, looked over his head at Evelyn. This is military-grade planning. They cut power-jammed signals, knew exactly where to enter. This isn't your brother's debt collectors. Evelyn's face was chalk white. Then who? Someone with resources and patience. Tyler moved to the monitors. 5 feeds showing different angles of the penthouse. He could see 3 figures moving through the space, searching methodically. Someone who's been planning this for a while. The phone works, Evelyn said, pointing to the landline. Direct to police headquarters. Bypasses everything. Tyler picked it up, dialed. It rang 4 times before connecting. This is Detective Martinez. The voice was groggy, off-duty. It's Tyler Brooks. We're under attack at Evelyn Langford's penthouse. Armed intruders, professional grade. We're in the safe room, but we need immediate response. Martinez was instantly alert. How many? At least 3. Maybe more. Tyler watched the monitors. One figure was examining the safe room door, running a hand along the seal. They're equipped for extraction. 20 minutes. Can you hold? Tyler looked at the door at the family huddled behind him at the monitors, showing professionals who knew what they were doing. We'll hold. But Martinez brings SWAT. This isn't street crime. He hung up. 20 minutes. Might as well be 20 hours. James spoke up, his voice surprisingly steady for a kid who should be terrified. There's another way out, behind the vent. Everyone turned to look at him. I found it when I was playing, James continued. It's a maintenance shaft. Mom said never to use it, but it's there. Evelyn's eyes widened. The building codes required a secondary exit from the safe room. I forgot it vents to the exterior fire escape 2 floors down. Tyler examined the vent James pointed to. Large enough for the boys, maybe large enough for adults if they squeezed. Not ideal, but better than being trapped when the door eventually gave way. That's our exit strategy if we need it, he said. But we wait for police first. No unnecessary risks. On the monitor, one of the intruders pulled out what looked like a thermal cutter. They were going to breach. Not immediately, but given enough time, every door opens. Tyler's phone, the one he'd tucked in his pocket, suddenly buzzed. Somehow, miraculously, it had signal. He pulled it out. Text message. Different unknown number. Your brother sends his regards. He never meant for this to escalate. But certain debts require certain collateral. Stand down and the children don't get hurt. Tyler showed Evelyn. Her hand flew to her mouth. Marcus. Oh God, Marcus, what did you do? He's there, Tyler asked. He's with them. The message says. Evelyn's voice cracked. He's involved. My own brother is trying to kidnap my son. The pieces were falling into place now, forming a picture Tyler didn't want to see, but couldn't ignore. Marcus, drowning in gambling debts, approached by people who saw opportunity in his famous sister. A simple plan, create leverage, force Evelyn to pay. The alley attack was supposed to be clean, grab her ransom, her done. But Tyler had interfered. So they'd escalated. Gone after the one thing Evelyn valued more than money or power. Her child. Tyler pulled up the building schematics on one of the safe room computers, grateful that Evelyn's paranoia had extended to keeping detailed floor plans. If we go through that vent, where does it let out? Evelyn leaned over his shoulder, traced the path with one finger. Fire escape on the east side. From there we can reach the neighboring building's roof access. It's connected for emergency evacuation. And from there, street-level exit through the Meridian lobby. Always staffed, always monitored. Tyler nodded. It could work. We move in 5 minutes. Let them think we're staying put. Let them commit to breaching this door. Then we ghost them. What if they have people outside? Evelyn asked. They probably do. But they can't be everywhere. We use confusion, speed, and darkness. Tyler checked the gun he'd taken. 1 magazine, maybe 12 rounds left. Not enough for a sustained fight, but enough to cover an escape. Milo tugged on Tyler's shirt. Dad, I'm scared. Tyler knelt, met his son's eyes. I know, buddy. Me too. But you know what scared just means? You're paying attention. And paying attention keeps you safe. Is anyone going to die? James asked the question, stark and childlike and devastating. Not if I can help it. Tyler looked at both boys. But I need you two to be brave for just a little while longer. Can you do that? They nodded. These 2 kids who'd bonded over Legos and robots now bonded by something darker. On the monitor, the thermal cutter sparked to life. The breach was beginning. Tyler moved to the vent, yanked it free. The shaft beyond was dark, but navigable. Evelyn goes first with James. Milo, you're next. I bring up the rear. I should stay with you? Evelyn protested. This is your job is to protect your son. My job is to protect all of you. Now move. Something in his voice, the commander's voice, the voice that had led men through worse than this, made her obey. She climbed into the shaft, James following. Milo hesitated at the opening, looked back at Tyler. I'll be right behind you, Tyler promised. I'm not going anywhere without you. Milo climbed in. Tyler took one last look at the monitors. The door was glowing red where they were cutting almost through. He fired 3 rounds through the door, not aimed, just noise to make them flinch by a few more seconds. Then he climbed into the shaft and pulled the vent cover back into place behind him, leaving the gun wedged in the cover's seams so it would fall when they opened it, buying confusion. The shaft was tight, claustrophobic, every sound amplified. Tyler crawled, following the sound of Milo's breathing ahead. His knife wound screamed protest, but he ignored it. Pain was just information. Information could be managed. They emerged 2 floors down onto a fire escape, slick with rain that had started falling while they were inside. The city sprawled below them, indifferent to their terror. Tyler helped everyone out, counted heads, all present. "Move," he whispered. "Fast and quiet." They made it across to the neighboring building's roof access, just as shouts erupted from above. Someone had found the empty safe room. Tyler heard the crash of the vent being torn out, heard orders being barked in clipped professional tones. The roof access door was locked. Of course it was. Tyler looked around desperately, found a maintenance ladder leading further down. Not ideal, but movement was survival. "Ladder, now!" They descended into an alley behind the Meridian, and Tyler had never been more grateful for urban planning that put service alleys everywhere. They ran, Evelyn carrying James when he stumbled, Tyler carrying Milo, all of them gasping and terrified and alive. They burst into the Meridian lobby from the service entrance, and suddenly there were lights and people and security guards running toward them, because Evelyn Langford, Billionaire CEO, had just appeared looking like she'd escaped a war zone, which Tyler supposed she had. "Call Martinez," Tyler shouted at the guard. "Detective Martinez, downtown precinct. Tell him we're at the Meridian. Tell him they're still at the penthouse." The guard was already on his radio. Evelyn collapsed into a chair, both boys pressed against her. Tyler stood watch, scanning the lobby, the street beyond, waiting for threats that didn't materialize. His hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading, his side wet with blood from the reopened wound. "You're bleeding," Evelyn said, noticing. "I'll live." Tyler kept watching the street. "Did you recognize any of them on the monitors?" "No. They were—" She stopped. "Wait. One of them. The one who was directing the others. His build, the way he moved. It could have been—" "Tyler, I think I saw Marcus." Before Tyler could respond, Martinez arrived with what looked like half the downtown precinct. Police cars, SWAT vans, the full show. The detective took one look at them, and his face went granite hard. "Brief me," he demanded. Tyler did in clipped sentences. The power outage, the forced entry, the professional equipment, the message about Marcus. Martinez listened, absorbing it all, then turned to the SWAT commander. "Full sweep of the penthouse. Assume hostiles are trained and equipped. I want everyone alive if possible, dead if necessary. Protect civilians first." SWAT moved out like a machine. Martinez crouched in front of Evelyn and the boys. "You're safe now, I promise." "You can't promise that," Evelyn said flatly. "You can't even tell me why my own brother is trying to destroy me." "Actually," Martinez said slowly, "I might be able to help with that. We got a hit on Marcus's credit cards an hour ago. Security footage from the alley the night of the attack. Ms. Langford, I need you to look at something." He pulled out a tablet, queued up grainy black and white footage. The alley. The attack. Tyler could see himself entering frame, could see the moment the knife connected, could see Evelyn cowering against the wall, and in the background, barely visible near the mouth of the alley, watching everything unfold, Marcus Langford. "He was there," Martinez said quietly. "He watched them attack you, watched Tyler get stabbed, and then he walked away." Evelyn's face showed everything: betrayal, grief, rage, and something that looked like terrible understanding. "He set it up, the whole thing. He knew I'd be there. He told them where I'd be." "We think so. But here's the thing. We couldn't figure out why your brother's in debt, sure, but not enough to justify kidnapping and assault. Not enough to risk life in prison. Martinez swiped to another image. Until we pulled his bank records. 3 days before the attack, Marcus deposited $200,000, cash, then withdrew it all the next day. We tracked where it went. Loan sharks, Tyler guessed. Worse, a shell company traced back to Damian Cade. Evelyn's sharp inhale said that name meant something. Cade's been trying to acquire Langford Enterprises for 2 years, she said, her voice hollow. Hostile takeover attempts, proxy fights, smear campaigns. I've blocked him at every turn. He's cost me millions in legal fees alone. And Marcus gave him an opening, Martinez finished. We think Cade offered to clear Marcus's debts in exchange for inside information and assistance. The attack was supposed to traumatize you, make you vulnerable. When that failed, thanks to Tyler, they escalated. Tyler's mind was racing ahead. The stock. After a CEO gets attacked, his traumatized company stock drops. Anyone shorting that stock makes a fortune. Martinez nodded grimly. Cade shorted Langford Enterprises the morning after the attack. If you'd been rattled enough to make mistakes to show weakness, he'd have made millions. Instead, you hired Tyler and barely missed a day of work. So they tried again. Tonight. To take James, Evelyn whispered. To hold him hostage until resigned sold the company. Both probably. Cade gets what he wants. Marcus gets out of debt. Everyone wins except you. Martinez stood. But here's what they didn't count on. Tyler's not just a janitor. And you're not just another Mark. Sirens wailed outside. SWAT was bringing people out of the building in handcuffs. Tyler counted 4 men, but no Marcus. He ran, the SWAT commander reported. Found evidence of a 5th person recently departed. Blood trail suggests he was injured in the escape. We're searching the area. Tyler thought about the shots he'd fired in the dark, the sounds of impact. One of them had connected. Marcus was bleeding somewhere in the city, running from his own choices. Evelyn looked at Tyler, at the blood seeping through his shirt, at his battered face, and something shifted in her expression. Not gratitude anymore. Something deeper, harder to name. You saved us, she said. It's what you pay me for. No, her voice was fierce. This went beyond a job the moment you refused to stay in that safe room alone. The moment you cleared a path for us, the moment you bled for us again. Tyler didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Just pulled Milo and James close, felt their heartbeats synchronize with his own, and let himself feel the weight of what they'd survived. Martinez was already on his phone coordinating a manhunt. The captured men were being loaded into police vans. News helicopters circled overhead, like mechanical vultures, their spotlights turning the street into a stage. We need to get you somewhere safe, Martinez said. All of you. Until we catch Marcus and build a case against Cade, you're still targets. I have a safe house, Evelyn said. Outside the city. No one knows about it except my lawyer and my accountant. And now it's compromised because they probably have access to your lawyer's files, Tyler said bluntly. We need somewhere completely off-grid, somewhere no one knows about. A pause. Then Tyler sighed, knowing what he was about to offer would change everything. My uncle has a cabin, 2 hours north, deep woods, no digital footprint. He's been dead 5 years, and I never sold it because the paperwork was complicated and the property was worthless. But it's got running water, electricity, and enough space for 4 people. That's where we go, Martinez decided. Tonight. I'll have officers escort you. Evelyn looked at Tyler, and in that look was a question that went beyond logistics. They'd be isolated together. Her Tyler and their boys. Playing house in a cabin while police hunted her brother and built a case against her enemy. No turning back from this. No pretending it was just a job. Tyler nodded anyway. Because sometimes the only way out was through, and sometimes through meant burning down everything you thought you knew about boundaries and safety and keeping your distance. The four of them left the meridian together as the rain fell harder, washing the blood and fear away, but not the memory. Not the knowledge that they'd crossed some invisible line tonight from separate lives into something tangled and complicated, and maybe impossible to unravel. But alive. They were alive, and that was enough. For now. The cabin was exactly what Tyler remembered. Weathered wood, a sagging porch, surrounded by pine trees that swallowed sound and light. The police escort idled at the dirt road's entrance, while Tyler unlocked the door that hadn't opened in 5 years. Inside smelled like dust and memory, like the last summer he'd brought Sarah here, before she got sick back when life still had room for weekends away. Milo and James stumbled in behind him, exhausted beyond words. Evelyn followed still in her torn business suit, looking more displaced than Tyler had ever seen her. This woman who commanded boardrooms and made billion-dollar decisions now stood in a cabin with mismatched furniture and hunting trophies his uncle had mounted decades ago. "Bedrooms are upstairs," Tyler said, flipping light switches. "2 of them. Boys can share one, you take the other. I'll take the couch." "Tyler," Evelyn started. "Not up for debate. You need real rest. We all do." He was already moving, checking windows, testing locks, his body running on autopilot, because if he stopped moving, he'd have to acknowledge how close they'd come to losing everything tonight. The boys were asleep within minutes, still in their clothes, curled together like puppies seeking warmth. Tyler stood in their doorway, watching them breathe, making sure they were real and alive and safe. "They bonded fast," Evelyn said quietly, appearing beside him. "Trauma does that. Shared fear makes people family faster than shared joy sometimes. Is that what happened to us?" The question was soft, dangerous. "Are we family now?" Tyler didn't answer because he didn't know how to. Instead, he moved downstairs, found the first aid kit his uncle had always kept stocked, and sat at the kitchen table trying to redress the knife wound that had torn open during their escape. Evelyn took the gauze from his hands. "Let me. I can do it myself." "I know you can. Let me anyway." So Tyler sat still while she cleaned the wound with steady hands, her touch clinical, until it was just 2 people in a kitchen that smelled like pine and old coffee, both of them shaking with aftermath. "I'm sorry," Evelyn whispered. "I'm so sorry I brought this into your life. You and Milo were safe before We weren't safe. We were broke and one emergency away from homeless. There's a difference." Tyler caught her hand. "You didn't do this. Your brother did. Cade did. Don't carry their weight." "He's my brother. I should have seen." "You can't save people who don't want saving. I learned that in the army. Some people are drowning and fighting rescue at the same time." Tyler's voice was rough. "Marcus made his choices. Now he lives with them." Evelyn finished bandaging him in silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. "I want to destroy them. Cade the people who did this, all of them. I want to burn their world down. Then we burn it down." Tyler stood winced at the pull of fresh stitches. "But we do it legal. We do it right. Because if we go dark, we become what they are. You sound like you've thought about this before." "I have." Tyler didn't elaborate. Some stories from deployment stayed buried. They slept in shifts that night, Tyler taking first watch, then Evelyn despite his protests, both of them too wired to rest properly. When morning came gray and cold through the cabin windows, Martinez called with news that made Tyler's blood run cold. "We found Marcus," the detective said without preamble. "Attempted to cross the Canadian border last night. Border Patrol flagged him on our alert. He's in custody, asking for a lawyer." "Did he talk?" Tyler asked. "Not yet, but we got something better. The men from the penthouse are singing. Seems loyalty doesn't run deep when you're facing federal kidnapping charges." Martinez's voice held grim satisfaction. "One of them gave us vendor access logs. Someone's been inside Evelyn's security system for weeks. Someone who knew which cameras to avoid, which routes to take. It wasn't just inside knowledge, it was inside access." Evelyn had been listening on speaker. Her face went pale. My security company, the one I've used for 10 years. We're executing warrants on them today. But Evelyn, there's more. This wasn't opportunistic. The debt Marcus owed, we traced it back. Someone deliberately loaned him money at terms he couldn't refuse, then leveraged those debts to force cooperation. This was a setup from the beginning. Cade. Evelyn breathed. He engineered all of it. Made Marcus vulnerable, then exploited it. That's our theory. But theory doesn't hold up in court. We need proof. Martinez paused. Which is why I need you to do something dangerous, both of you. Tyler felt ice form in his gut. I'm listening. Marcus wants to make a deal. He's terrified, knows he's facing decades. He claims he has evidence, recordings, documents, proof that Cade orchestrated everything. But he'll only hand it over to Evelyn, in person. Absolutely not, Tyler said immediately. It's a trap. Maybe. Or maybe it's a brother with a conscience finally showing up. Martinez's voice was carefully neutral. He's in federal custody. Meeting would be controlled, monitored. But it has to be her. He won't talk to anyone else. Evelyn met Tyler's eyes. I'll do it. Do. Evelyn. He's still my brother. And if there's a chance he can help us end this, I have to take it. She turned back to the phone. When? Tomorrow. Federal building downtown. But I need you back in the city by tonight anyway. Your board called an emergency meeting. Someone leaked the attack to the press. You need to do damage control before your stock crashes and Cade makes another move. Tyler watched Evelyn's face transform from vulnerable sister to corporate warrior in seconds. Tell them I'll be there. And Martinez, I want full protection. Not just for me, for Tyler and the boys. Already arranged. I'll have officers at the cabin in 30 minutes. After he hung up, Evelyn stood at the cabin window staring at the trees like they held answers. I have to go back. If I don't, the board will panic. Investors will pull out. Everything I've built will collapse and Cade wins without firing another shot. Then we go back. Tyler was already planning routes, backup plans, contingencies. But we do it smart. Boys stay here with protection. You and I go to the city, handle your business, and get back before dark. You don't have to come. Yes, I do. That's the job, remember? Tyler's voice softened. Besides, someone needs to watch your back. Seems like you're short on people you can trust right now. Something passed between them in that moment, acknowledgement of what they'd become to each other in less than 3 weeks. Not employer and employee anymore. Not quite lovers. Something undefined and powerful that neither of them wanted to name, because naming it made it real, made it something that could be lost. The drive back to the city took 2 hours with a police escort. Evelyn spent the time on conference calls, her voice sharp and commanding as she managed a crisis from a speeding car. Tyler listened to her navigate board politics and media strategy with the same precision she'd used to escape armed intruders and understood why she'd become a billionaire before 40. This woman was forged steel wrapped in cashmere. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at Langford Enterprises. They arrived with 15 minutes to spare Tyler in the same blood-stained clothes from last night because he'd packed for boys, not himself. The board members stared at him as he took a position by the door, this janitor who'd somehow become Evelyn's shadow. Ms. Langford. The board chairman began, his tone dripping condescension. Perhaps we should have this discussion privately. Mr. Brooks stays. Evelyn's voice cut like glass. He's the reason I'm alive to have this discussion. Show some gratitude. The chairman's mouth thinned, but he nodded. Very well. Let's address the elephant in the room. Last night's attack is all over the news. Our stock is down 18%. Investors are spooked. And rumors are circulating that you're losing control. Rumors started by whom? Evelyn asked coolly. Does it matter? The damage is done. This from a woman to the chairman's right, her Rolex catching light as she gestured. We need to show stability, which means we need to discuss contingency leadership. Tyler saw it then, the coup attempt hidden inside concern. These people weren't worried about Evelyn's safety. They were worried about their portfolios, and they saw vulnerability as opportunity. You want me to step down, Evelyn said flatly. Temporarily, until the situation stabilizes. The chairman leaned forward. We've had discussions. Damian Cade has made a generous offer to acquire 40% of the company. It would stabilize stock prices, bring in new investment. Cade is behind the attacks. Evelyn's words dropped like bombs. He's been investigated by federal authorities. Evidence suggests he orchestrated my brother's deaths, the assault in the alley, the invasion of my home. And you want to hand him the company? Silence. Then the chairman recovered. Those are serious accusations. Do you have proof? Coming soon. Detective Martinez is building a RICO case. Federal prosecutors are involved. Evelyn stood, placed her hands on the table. So, here's what's going to happen. You're going to table any discussion of acquisitions or leadership changes. You're going to issue a statement supporting me and condemning the attacks. And you're going to remember that I own controlling interest in this company, which means I can replace every person at this table. You wouldn't dare, the Rolex woman hissed. The optics. The optics are that I survived a home invasion and came to work the next day. The optics are that I'm a fighter who doesn't fold under pressure. That's the story we tell. Evelyn's gaze swept the room. Unless you'd prefer the story where my board tried to force me out while I was literally bleeding from defending my family. Tyler watched the power shift in real time. Saw the board members exchange glances, recalculate their positions. They'd thought her vulnerable. She'd shown them teeth. The meeting ended 30 minutes later with grudging support and promises of solidarity that Tyler knew were hollow. But it was enough, for now. Outside the conference room, Evelyn sagged against the wall. They're going to try again. The moment Cade's arrested, they'll find someone else to leverage against me. Then you fire them first, Tyler said. It's not that simple. They have connections, influence. And you have something they don't. You have the truth, and you have people willing to fight for you. Tyler checked his watch. Martinez said Marcus would only talk to you. Maybe it's time to hear what your brother has to say. The federal building was fortress gray and imposing security so tight, Tyler had to surrender his phone and empty his pockets twice. They were led to a small interview room where Marcus Langford sat handcuffed to a table, looking nothing like the polished, trust fund kid Tyler had seen in photographs. Marcus was hollow-eyed, unshaven, wearing an orange jumpsuit that hung on his frame. When Evelyn entered, his face crumpled. Evie, I'm so sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Don't. Evelyn's voice was ice. Don't call me that. You lost the right to family names when you watched men stab an innocent person and did nothing. Tyler stood by the door while Martinez observed through one-way glass. This was between siblings, between shared history and fresh betrayal. Marcus's hands shook. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. They said they'd just scare you, make you transfer some money. No one was supposed to get hurt. But someone did. Tyler almost died. Then you escalated, sent men to my home, traumatized my son. Evelyn leaned forward. Why, Marcus, I would have helped you. I always helped you. That's exactly why, Marcus exploded. You always helped, always fixed things, always made me feel like a failure who couldn't handle his own life. I wanted to solve my own problems. I wanted to be someone other than Evelyn Langford's screw-up brother. So you chose this. Evelyn's voice broke. Betrayal and kidnapping and almost murdering children? I didn't know they'd go after James. I swear when they said, Marcus stopped, looked at Tyler. You were supposed to walk away. In the alley. They said they'd picked a night when you'd already finished your shift, but you stayed late. Because someone spilled coffee, Tyler said quietly. So you're saying I'm alive because of office clumsiness? I'm saying everything went wrong from the start. Marcus turned back to Evelyn. Cade promised to clear my debts if I helped. Just some information, some access codes. I didn't know he'd hired professionals. Didn't know he was planning to... He stopped, swallowed hard. They were supposed to film you, in the alley, begging for your life. Cade was going to use it as blackmail, force you to sell the company under market value, or he'd release it to the press. Tyler felt sick. The attack wasn't just about money, it was about humiliation. About destroying Evelyn so completely, she'd have no choice but to surrender. "But I interfered," Tyler said. "So there's no video?" "There's video of the attack, of you getting stabbed." Marcus's voice was hollow. "Cade has it. He's been sitting on it trying to figure out how to use it. He wanted to make you look like the villain somehow, like you were part of a setup. His PR people were working on it." Evelyn's jaw clenched. "Do you have proof of this documentation?" "Better." Marcus reached into his pocket with handcuffed hands, pulled out a USB drive that Martinez must have cleared. "Recordings. Every conversation I had with Cade and his people. I was terrified they'd kill me when this was over, so I recorded everything. It's all here. The setup, the payoffs, the plans for the home invasion. All of it." Martinez entered the room, took the drive. "We'll need to verify this. But if it's what you say it is, Marcus, you just handed us a federal case." "I want immunity," Marcus said quickly. "Full immunity. I cooperate, I testify, and I walk." "You don't walk?" Evelyn said coldly. "You ran from this. You get to live with it." "Evie, please. We'll discuss terms with prosecutors." Martinez interrupted. "But Mr. Langford, you need to understand. You're looking at minimum 10 years even with cooperation. You participated in kidnapping, assault, and conspiracy. Immunity isn't on the table." Marcus's face crumpled. He looked at Evelyn with desperate, drowning eyes. "I never meant for it to go this far. You have to believe me." "I believe you're a coward," Evelyn said softly. "I believe you sold your family for the illusion of independence. I believe you broke something between us that can't be fixed." She stood. "But I also believe people deserve chances to make things right. So cooperate with the police. Give them everything. And maybe in 10 or 15 years we can have a conversation about forgiveness." She walked out without looking back, and Tyler followed, leaving Marcus weeping into his handcuffed hands. In the hallway, Evelyn finally broke. She pressed her forehead against the cold wall and just breathed ragged and raw. "He was supposed to protect me," she whispered. "When we were kids, he was supposed to be the big brother who protected me. And instead, he—" Tyler pulled her close, let her shake against him. "I know. I'm sorry." They stood like that until Martinez emerged with the USB drive and news that would change everything. "It's real," the detective said, voice tight with excitement. Marcus recorded everything. Cade on tape discussing the setup, offering money, planning the attacks. "We've got him. Federal prosecutors are drafting charges now, racketeering, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, attempted murder. This is RICO territory. We're talking decades in prison." "How long until arrest?" Tyler asked. "Hours, maybe less. We're coordinating with FBI, getting warrants for Cade's office's homes, bank accounts. This is going to be massive." Evelyn straightened, wiped her eyes. "I want to be there. When you arrest him." "Not possible. Too dangerous and potential for defense attorneys to cry foul." "I don't care about legal technicalities. That man tried to kill my son." Evelyn's voice was steel. "I want to look him in the eyes when he realizes he lost." Martinez studied her. "There might be a way. We have to confront him with evidence first, give him a chance to surrender. Standard procedure. You could be present for that as the victim. Your presence might even encourage him to cooperate." "Then that's what happens." Evelyn looked at Tyler. "Both of us. We face this together." Tyler wanted to argue, wanted to say it was unnecessary risk, but he saw the need in her eyes, the need to reclaim power from the man who'd tried to strip it away. So he nodded. 3 hours later, they walked into Cade's downtown office with Martinez and a team of federal agents. The space was all black marble and sharp edges designed to intimidate. Cade sat behind a desk that probably cost more than Tyler's car, his silver hair perfect, his suit immaculate. He smiled when Evelyn entered. "Ms. Langford, what an unexpected pleasure. Have you reconsidered my acquisition offer?" Damien Cade, Martinez said, stepping forward. I'm Detective Martinez. This is Special Agent Chen from the FBI. We have a warrant for your arrest. The smile didn't falter. On what grounds? Racketeering, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, attempted murder, securities fraud. Martinez set the arrest warrant on Cade's desk like a gauntlet. We have recordings. Your conversations with Marcus Langford, your hired operatives, your entire operation. You're done. For the first time, Cade's expression flickered. His eyes found Evelyn, and Tyler saw the calculation happening, trying to determine if this was a bluff. Marcus wouldn't, Cade started. Marcus cracked like an egg, Evelyn said coldly. He gave you up completely. Every conversation, every payment, every plan. You tried to destroy me, Damien. You almost killed my son, and for what A company you could never run as well as I do. Cade stood slowly. You can't prove anything. Marcus is a degenerate gambler with debts. No jury will believe. We have video footage of your people entering Evelyn's building. Agent Chen interrupted. We have financial records showing shell companies you control paying Marcus. We have your short positions on Langford Enterprises, stock timed perfectly with each attack. The evidence is overwhelming. Tyler watched Cade's face as the reality sank in. Watched a powerful man realize power was finite, breakable, already broken. You have the right to remain silent, Martinez began. But Cade wasn't listening. He was staring at Evelyn with something like respect. You're tougher than I thought. I underestimated you. Everyone does. Evelyn's voice was soft, lethal. That's how I keep winning. They arrested Cade in his own office, cuffed him in front of his employees, who watched through glass walls with wide eyes and WhatsApp messages already flying. Tyler escorted Evelyn out, while media trucks arrived, while cameras flashed, while the story of the day was written in real time. In the car back to the cabin, Evelyn was silent for miles. Then she spoke, voice raw. It doesn't feel like winning. It never does, Tyler said. Justice feels like exhaustion wearing victory's clothes. He tried to take everything from me, and all I feel is tired. Tyler took her hand, held it, while city gave way to trees. Then rest. You've earned it. The board is handled, Cade is in custody. Marcus is cooperating. You survived. That's enough for today. Is it enough for you? Evelyn asked. After everything you've been through because of me. Tyler thought about the knife wound still healing, the terror of the home invasion, the weight of protecting children from monsters. Yeah, it's enough. Because somewhere in the chaos of the last 3 weeks, Tyler had found something he'd lost when Sarah died: purpose. Belonging. The feeling that he mattered beyond just keeping Milo fed and clothed. He'd found people worth fighting for, worth bleeding for. He'd found family in the wreckage of someone else's war, and that was worth every scar. They reached the cabin as sunset painted the trees gold. The boys were building something elaborate with Legos on the porch, their laughter carrying through the pine-scented air. They looked up as the car approached, and their faces lit with relief and joy that squeezed Tyler's heart. Dad, Milo ran to him, crashed into his legs. We built a fortress. Come see. Me too. James was right behind, grabbing Evelyn's hand. Mom, look what we made. And for just a moment, standing there in the fading light, with 2 boys pulling them toward a Lego fortress, Tyler let himself believe that maybe they'd survived more than an attack. Maybe they'd survived into something new, something better than what they'd been separately. Martinez called one more time that night with news that made everything settle into place. We found the dirty cop, he said. Sergeant Cole. He was feeding Cade's people information about patrol routes, response times. But when he heard about the threat against James, he cracked, came forward voluntarily. He's testifying against Cade in exchange for reduced charges. Why did he crack? Evelyn asked. He has a daughter James's age. Said he could justify a lot of things to himself, but not threats against kids. Said that's where he drew the line. Tyler felt something like hope. Even in corruption, even in betrayal, some lines held. Some parts of humanity remained untouchable. "We're going to win this," Martinez said. "Cade's looking at 25 to life. His lawyers are already talking plea deals, but prosecutors aren't interested. We're making an example. No one tries to destroy someone through their family and walks away." After the call ended, Tyler found Evelyn on the porch, staring at stars that never appeared in the city. He sat beside her in comfortable silence. 24 hours, Evelyn said eventually. "That's how long it's been since you showed up in that alley and changed everything. And look where we are now." "More than 24 hours, Tyler corrected gently. "That was 3 weeks ago." "Was it feels like a lifetime?" "Feels like yesterday." Evelyn turned to him, and in the starlight her face was open and vulnerable in a way her boardroom never saw. "What happens now? When the trials are over and the threats are gone, do you go back to being just the driver? Do we go back to separate lives?" Tyler didn't have an answer. Didn't know if there was an answer. They'd been forged together in crisis, and crisis bonds were sometimes the only thing holding people together. When the danger faded, would they? "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know I'm not walking away. Not from you, not from James. You're stuck with me until you decide you're not." "What if I never decide that?" "Then I guess you're stuck with me forever." Evelyn laughed, soft and tired and real. "Forever is a long time, Tyler Brooks. Good thing I've got nowhere else to be." They sat together while the stars wheeled overhead and their boys slept safe inside, and for the first time in 3 years, Tyler let himself imagine a future that included more than survival. A future that included belonging, love, chosen family. A future that started with a scream in an alley and led here to a cabin in the woods where 2 broken people were learning to be whole again, together. The next morning arrived with frost on the cabin windows and Martinez calling before sunrise. Tyler answered on the second ring, already awake, already dressed, already prepared for whatever came next. "It's happening today," Martinez said without preamble. "Federal prosecutors are fast-tracking this. Cade's lawyers tried to negotiate, but the evidence is too strong. They're recommending he plead guilty in exchange for 20 years instead of life. He's considering it." Tyler glanced at Evelyn, who'd appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair loose around her shoulders, looking more human than he'd ever seen her. "What does that mean for us?" "Means you need to be in court by 10 a.m. Victim impact statements. The judge wants to hear directly from you and Evelyn before accepting any plea." After the call ended, Tyler found the boys still asleep upstairs, tangled in blankets and dreams that didn't include terror. He memorized the sight, Milo's cowlick sticking up James's hand curled around a Lego minifigure even in sleep. This was what they'd been fighting for, this peaceful, ordinary moment. "I don't know what to say," Evelyn admitted over coffee that tasted like dishwater but felt like communion. "In court. How do I put into words what he tried to take from us? You tell the truth. You tell them about James's nightmares, about looking over your shoulder every second, about learning that money can't buy safety or trust or peace." Tyler's hands wrapped around his mug. "You tell them that you're done being quiet about it." The drive to the courthouse took 3 hours with the police escort. The boys stayed at the cabin with 2 officers Martinez trusted personally. Both fathers themselves, both armed and alert. Milo had cried when Tyler left, old fears rising, but James had held his hand and promised they'd build the biggest Lego city ever while they waited. Brothers in everything but blood. The courthouse was a circus. Media trucks lined the streets, 3 deep reporters shouting questions as Tyler and Evelyn pushed through with Martinez clearing a path. The story had captured everything the public loved: billionaire drama, corporate conspiracy, a working-class hero. Tyler hated every camera flash, every microphone thrust in his face. Inside the courtroom was all dark wood and hushed voices. Damian Cade sat at the defense table in a suit that probably cost more than Tyler's annual salary used to be, but the clothes couldn't hide the defeat in his shoulders. His lawyers flanked him like pallbearers at a funeral for his freedom. The judge was a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Cade, before I consider your plea agreement, I want to hear from the victims. Ms. Langford, you may proceed. Evelyn stood and Tyler watched her transform, not into the CEO, into something rawer, realer. Your Honor, Damien Cade tried to destroy my life because I wouldn't sell him my company. When intimidation didn't work, he weaponized my own brother against me. He orchestrated an attack that nearly killed an innocent man. Her voice shook but held. He sent armed men into my home to kidnap my 8-year-old son. He made my child afraid to sleep in his own bed. He made me question every relationship, every employee, every moment of safety I thought I had. She turned to face Cade directly. You didn't just attack me. You attacked everyone I love. You turned my brother into a criminal. You traumatized children. And for what money? Power. The satisfaction of winning. Evelyn's hands were steady now. I hope you spend every day of your sentence thinking about what you destroyed, and I hope it was worth it. She sat down and the courtroom was silent, except for the scratch of the court reporter's keys. Mr. Brooks, the judge said, would you like to make a statement? Tyler stood, feeling every eye in the room on him. The janitor, the nobody, the man who'd had the audacity to interfere. I don't have a prepared speech, Your Honor. I'm not good with words like Ms. Langford. But I can tell you this, I got stabbed in an alley trying to help someone who needed help. That's all I was doing, just helping. And this man turned that into part of some scheme, some game where people's lives were pieces on a board. Tyler's voice roughened. My son is 7 years old. He's already lost his mother. And because I tried to do the right thing, he almost lost me too. He had to watch me bleed. He had to be afraid. And then, when we thought it was over, Mr. Cade sent men to take children, to hurt kids, to make a point. Tyler looked at Cade, saw nothing behind those eyes. I don't know what 20 years in prison teaches someone like you. But I know that every parent in this country needs to know that there are consequences for threatening children. Real consequences. He sat down, and Evelyn's hand found his under the table, squeezed hard enough to hurt. The judge removed her glasses, cleaned them slowly. Mr. Cade, I've reviewed the evidence, the recordings, the financial documents, the testimony from your co-conspirators. This was a calculated, sustained campaign of terror against an innocent family. The fact that you're here contemplating a plea instead of fighting these charges tells me even you know how damning the evidence is. Cade's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client deeply regrets. I wasn't finished. The judge's voice could have cut glass. I've seen a lot of criminals in my courtroom, Mr. Cade. Drug dealers, murderers, fraudsters. But it takes a special kind of evil to weaponize a man's gambling addiction against his own sister, to send armed men after children, to corrupt law enforcement and infiltrate someone's home. She replaced her glasses. I'm accepting your plea agreement, but I'm adding conditions. Full restitution to the victims. Every penny they spent because of your actions. Medical bills, security costs, legal fees, property damage, all of it. You'll pay. Your Honor, the lawyer protested. That could be millions. Then your client should have thought of that before playing God with people's lives. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. 20 years in federal prison. No parole eligibility for 15. Restitution payments begin immediately from frozen assets. Mr. Cade, you're remanded to custody. The bailiffs moved forward, and Damien Cade was led away in handcuffs. He didn't look back, didn't apologize. Just walked out of his own life like a man who'd always known this ending was coming. Outside the courtroom, Martinez was waiting with news that made Tyler's knees weak. Marcus's cooperation paid off. We rolled up the entire network. Cade's hired operatives, the security company employees who gave him access. Sergeant Cole, everyone. It's over. Really completely over. Evelyn sagged against Tyler, all the strength that had carried her through the statement finally giving out. I can't believe it's done. Not quite done, Martinez said. You've got a press conference in 30 minutes. Media's demanding a statement. The world wants to know what happened to Evelyn Langford. The press conference was held on the courthouse steps, cameras and microphones forming a wall of public scrutiny. Evelyn stood at a podium with Tyler beside her, not behind her, not hidden away. Beside her, equal. 3 weeks ago, Evelyn began, her voice carrying across the crowded plaza. A stranger saved my life in an alley. Tyler Brooks didn't know who I was. Didn't know I had money, or power, or influence. He just saw someone who needed help, and he helped. That decision nearly cost him his life. It absolutely changed mine. Tyler watched her face as she spoke, saw the careful balance between vulnerability and strength. What followed was a nightmare, orchestrated by someone who thought money could buy anything, including my destruction. Damian Cade used my own brother against me, attacked my home, threatened my child. He thought he could break me. He was wrong. Evelyn's jaw set. But here's what this experience taught me. I've spent my career building wealth and power. I've made billions, and when it mattered most, none of that protected me. You know what did? A janitor with a good heart, a police detective who believed in justice, 2 little boys who showed me what bravery looks like, and a community of people who stepped up when everything else failed. She paused, letting that sink in. So, I'm making changes. Real changes, not publicity stunts. Starting today, Langford Enterprises is establishing an employee and community safety fund, $50 million, to provide security, legal assistance, and support for workers who find themselves in danger because they did the right thing. Because people like Tyler Brooks shouldn't have to choose between helping someone and paying their medical bills. Tyler's head snapped toward her. She hadn't mentioned this, hadn't asked, was just doing it, and the realization hit him like a freight train. This was who she was becoming. Not the woman who'd offered charity in a hospital. The woman who'd learned that systems needed changing. Additionally, Evelyn continued, I'm creating a new position at my company, Director of Protective Operations and Community Safety. This person will oversee security, yes, but also develop programs for employee assistance, threat assessment, and community outreach. And I'm hiring Tyler Brooks to lead it. She turned to him, and her eyes were bright. Not because he saved my life. Because he's uniquely qualified, because he understands both protection and humanity, and because he's earned it. The reporters erupted with questions, but Evelyn held up a hand. I want to be very clear about something. This isn't charity. This isn't me buying gratitude or good PR. This is business. This is me recognizing that the people who keep us safe, who show up when it matters, deserve more than minimum wage and invisible status. They deserve respect, resources, recognition. She stepped back from the podium, and Tyler felt the weight of what she'd just done. Not rescued him, elevated him, given him not money but purpose, not handouts but opportunity. The difference was everything. Later in Martinez's office, they learned about the restitution details. The judge had ordered Cade's frozen assets liquidated to pay victims. Tyler's medical bills from both the alley attack and the reopened wound erased. Not forgiven, not paid by Evelyn, paid by Cade as legal restitution. The distinction mattered more than the money. There's more, Martinez said, sliding a folder across his desk. Your eviction notice, Tyler. Cade's people had threatened your landlord, told him to evict you to increase pressure on Evelyn. We have proof. That eviction is legally void. You can't be charged back rent because the eviction itself was illegal. Tyler stared at the paperwork that said he wasn't homeless, wasn't drowning, wasn't invisible anymore. I don't understand. How did Cade even know about me to threaten my landlord? That's the thing. Martinez pulled up security footage on his computer. Remember the alley you said there were no cameras? Turns out there was one. Maintenance camera on the building across the street. Hadn't worked in months, but someone, we think it was you, actually had reported it broken the week before. Building management finally fixed it. Came online the day of the attack. The video played. Grainy, black and white, but clear enough. Tyler entering the alley. The attack. The stabbing. Evelyn's face as he collapsed. And in the corner of the frame, barely visible, Marcus Langford watching everything. That camera, Martinez said quietly, was the first domino. It gave us Marcus's presence. His presence led to phone records. Phone records led to Cade. All because you showed up in an alley when you didn't have to. Tyler couldn't speak. Couldn't process that his own action reporting a broken camera weeks ago because he believed communities should be safe had created the evidence chain that brought down an empire of corruption. The maintenance log shows you called it in, Martinez confirmed. You probably don't even remember. Just doing your job keeping the building safe. But that choice rippled. Changed everything. Evelyn reached for Tyler's hand, and this time, she didn't let go. 2 months later, Tyler stood in an office on the 42nd floor of Langford Enterprises. His office, with his name on the door, Director of Protective Operations. The title still felt foreign, but the work felt right, developing security protocols that prioritized humanity, creating support systems for employees facing threats, building bridges between corporate power and community need. Milo and James were downstairs in the newly established community center, leading a robotics workshop for kids from Riverside. The center was their idea, proposed over pizza one night, when Tyler had asked what they thought would make the world safer. Teach people how to build things instead of break things, James had said. So they'd built it. Not Evelyn alone, but Evelyn and Tyler together, consulting the boys every step of the way. The program had a name, the Brooks Langford Youth Innovation Grant. Milo and James as co-founders, their pictures on the website, their voices heard. Not as accessories to their parents' redemption, but as architects of their own future. Ready. Evelyn appeared in Tyler's doorway wearing jeans instead of a power suit, her hair down, her expression soft. For what? It's Saturday. We're going home. Home. The word meant something different now. Not the cabin, though they'd turned it into a weekend refuge. Not Tyler's old apartment or Evelyn's penthouse. Home was the house they'd bought together in a neighborhood halfway between Riverside and downtown, close enough to both their worlds that neither felt abandoned. It was modest by Evelyn's standards, enormous by Tyler's. 4 bedrooms, 1 for each boy, 1 for Tyler, 1 for Evelyn. Separate spaces that acknowledged the complexity of what they were building. Not a fairy tale romance, though something like love was growing in the spaces between crisis and calm. Not a business arrangement, though boundaries remained. Something new, undefined, powerful. They picked up the boys from the community center, both of them covered in motor oil and pride from their successful workshop. 12 kids signed up for next week, James announced. And one of them is from my school, from the group that used to ignore me. That's great, buddy, Evelyn said, ruffling his hair. It's because Tyler talked to the parents, Milo added, always quick to give his father credit. Told them about how helping people is important. Tyler caught Evelyn's eye over the boys' heads. She was smiling the real smile that had taken weeks to resurface after the trial. At home, and yes, Tyler was finally calling it, that they grilled burgers in the backyard, while the boys built increasingly elaborate Lego cities on the patio. Mrs. Chen came over with origami cranes and gossip from Riverside. Martinez stopped by with his daughter, who immediately partnered with James and Milo on some engineering project Tyler couldn't follow. As the sun set and the burgers burned slightly because Tyler was distracted by Milo's laughter, Evelyn leaned against the deck railing beside him. I've been thinking about something, she said. Dangerous habit. She smiled. The board tried to remove me again last week. Different board members, but same energy. They don't like the changes. Don't like that I'm prioritizing people over profits. Tyler's stomach clenched. What happened? I fired them, all of them. Brought in new board members who actually give a damn about ethics. It's going to cost me. Lawsuits probably. Stock turbulence definitely. But I don't care anymore. She turned to face him. Cade tried to teach me that power is everything. But you taught me something better. Power without purpose is just noise. And I'd rather build something meaningful than protect something hollow. Tyler didn't know what to say to that, So he said the only true thing he could think of. "I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us." Evelyn's hand found his. 24 hours, Tyler. That's what the news keeps saying. That I changed your life in 24 hours. But they've got it backwards. You changed mine. You showed me what courage looks like without a safety net. What integrity looks like when it costs everything. What family looks like when you choose it instead of inheriting it. The boys were calling them something about needing adult supervision for a Lego crane they'd engineered. Tyler and Evelyn moved toward their children because that's what they were. Now, not his son and her son, but their sons, their family, their choice. Later that night, after the kids were asleep and Mrs. Chen had gone home and Martinez had collected his daughter, Tyler found Evelyn in the kitchen doing dishes. It was such a normal domestic scene that Tyler had to stop and memorize it. Evelyn Langford, Billionaire CEO, elbow deep in soapy water because their dishwasher was broken and neither of them had called the repair person yet. "I've been thinking too," Tyler said, picking up a towel to dry. "Also dangerous. The job, the house, the life we're building." Tyler chose his words carefully. "I need you to know I didn't stay because of any of that. I stayed because of you, because of James, because somewhere between that alley and this kitchen, you became family." Evelyn's hands stilled in the water. "Tyler, I'm not saying this to pressure you. I know we're taking things slow, figuring out what we are. I just need you to know that even if the job disappeared tomorrow, even if the house burned down, even if we lost every dollar, I'd still be here. Because you're worth staying for." She turned to him, soapy hands and all, and Tyler saw tears on her face. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be the person you see when you look at me. You already are that person. You've been her all along. You just needed someone to notice. You noticed. Kind of hard not to. You were literally being attacked." She laughed through tears, and then she was kissing him, and it was nothing like the kiss in the penthouse during the crisis. This was soft and scared and real, the kiss of two people who'd survived hell together and were choosing to walk into whatever came next, side by side. When they pulled apart, Tyler rested his forehead against hers. "We're going to be okay." "How do you know?" "Because we already survived the worst. Everything else is just details." The sound of small feet on stairs made them separate. Milo appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Dad, I had a bad dream." Tyler moved without thinking, scooped up his son, held him close. "Want to tell me about it?" "The bad men came back." "They're in prison, buddy. They can't come back." "But what if there are more bad men?" Tyler carried Milo to the couch and Evelyn followed with a blanket. They sat together, this makeshift family, and Tyler answered his son's fear with the only truth that mattered. "There will always be bad men, Milo. The world isn't perfect. But there will also always be good people willing to fight them. People like your dad, like Ms. Evelyn, like Detective Martinez. And someday, people like you and James, because you're learning that helping people matters more than being safe. That standing up is worth the risk." "But you got hurt." "I did, and I'd do it again." Tyler met Evelyn's eyes over Milo's head. "Because the alternative is walking away when someone needs help. And that's not the kind of person I want to be. That's not the kind of person I want you to be." Milo considered this with 7-year-old gravity. "If I help people, will you be proud of me? I'm already proud of you. Every day. Even when I'm scared. Especially when you're scared. Bravery is just fear that shows up anyway." Milo nodded against Tyler's chest, and within minutes he was asleep again. Tyler carried him back upstairs, tucked him in beside James, who'd migrated to Milo's room at some point, the boys gravitating toward each other even in sleep. Standing in the doorway, watching them breathe, Tyler felt Evelyn's presence behind him. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For showing up in that alley. For refusing my charity. For taking a job you didn't want because you needed it. For protecting my son like he was your own. For teaching me that wealth without humanity is just numbers on a screen. Her voice broke. For choosing us. Tyler turned, pulled her close. Thank you for giving me a reason to be more than invisible. For seeing me when no one else did. For trusting me with your son, your life, your broken pieces. They stood together in that doorway, while their children slept, two people who'd been shattered by life, and were learning to be whole again through each other. 3 months after that, on a Tuesday that felt like any other Tuesday, until it wasn't, Tyler came home to find Evelyn and the boys in the backyard with a surprise. They'd built something, a wooden bench under the oak tree, simple and sturdy with a plaque. Tyler walked closer, read the inscription, "For Sarah Brooks, who taught us that love endures, and for everyone who shows up when it matters." Tyler's throat closed. He looked at his son, at James, at Evelyn, and saw the family they'd chosen to be. Not replacing what was lost, but honoring it, building on it, becoming something new, without forgetting what came before. Milo said you missed his mom, James explained. So we thought she should be here too, part of the family. Tyler knelt, pulled both boys close. She would have loved you guys, both of you. We know, Milo said with the certainty only children possess. That's why we built it. That evening, as the sun set over their chosen family, Tyler sat on Sarah's bench with Evelyn beside him and watched the boys play. Watched them build and laugh and exist in the safety that had been fought for and bled for and earned. Do you think we'll ever feel normal? Evelyn asked. This is normal. Our normal. Tyler took her hand. It's not what I imagined 3 months ago. It's better. Even with all the pain, especially with it, pain means we're alive, means we fought for something worth keeping. The boys ran over breathless and covered in grass stains, demanding that Tyler and Evelyn come see the fort they'd built. So they went, because that's what family does. They show up, they pay attention. They choose each other again and again, in small moments and large. And as Tyler helped his son hang a blanket over the fort's entrance, while Evelyn and James debated structural integrity with engineering terms neither of them fully understood, he realized something profound. He'd entered that alley 3 months ago, thinking he was saving a stranger. But he'd been saving himself. Saving all of them. Creating the possibility of this moment ordinary and perfect and earned. The knife scar on his side would fade, but never disappear. The memories of terror would soften but remain. The knowledge that evil existed and sometimes won would never fully leave. But neither would this. This chosen family in this backyard, on this ordinary Tuesday evening, that felt like grace. Tyler Brooks had spent 3 years being invisible, thinking his purpose died with his wife. But purpose doesn't die. It transforms. It finds you in alleys and hospital rooms and glass towers and cabins in the woods. It finds you in the spaces between fear and courage, between survival and living. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it looks like a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old arguing about Legos, while a woman who used to be a stranger and was now everything laughs at their intensity. Sometimes purpose looks like home. And 24 hours or 3 months or a lifetime later, that's exactly what Tyler Brooks had found. Not because a billionaire changed his life. Because he'd changed his own one choice at a time, starting with a scream in an alley and a decision to show up when it mattered. Everything else was just details. Good details. The kind worth living for.